Hey guys, so it's Magic. So the topic for today, I just wanted to kind of sit down with you guys, open up and discuss a little bit about stigmas around mental health and one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to seek help into improving their mental health. I guess I can start off by, giving the reasons as to why I was having a hard time going about getting help. And of course, when it comes to the stigma of mental health, a lot of people think about, how society views mental health and how society treats people with mental health issues. But in reality, we do have to take a look at it and think about how we treat people who are dealing with mental health issues, because the stigma around mental health is more of an internalized thing than we really know. We actually deal with mental health on a daily basis, but when it comes to mental illness, when we think about mental health, that's really what we're thinking about. We're thinking about the mental illness aspect of it. So somebody being diagnosed with anxiety disorders, somebody being diagnosed with depression, someone that has bipolar, schizophrenia, anorexia, some type of mental illness that's affecting their life. A lot of people have a hard time separating mental illness from just overall general mental health. Now, mental health is really just, how you cope with stress, how you deal with your day-to-day issues, how you deal with your ongoing life, how you effectively live your life, right? With that being said, personally speaking, I had stigmas when it came to mental health. When I was going through, I guess my anxiety and depression and things like that. My biggest thing for not getting help was I felt that if I was to go get help and that I am going to reach out to a doctor or a professional of some sort, that really, they're just going to label me. They're going to sit there and say, oh, well, you got this issue, you got that issue, you need to take these medications. These medications is what's going to treat you. You need to come see us 5 times a month during a session every month. And I didn't want to go through any of that. I was very reluctant to open up and seek help, mainly because of the fact that everybody I tried to put me on some kind of medication, whether it's antidepressants, they try to put me on medication for anxiety, and I'm not really a person that wants to take medication. Now, don't get me wrong, I do feel that people who are suffering from mental illness do need to take their medication because it is more of a chemical imbalance in the brain than anything. But mental health is really just your state of mind and how it is. So for me, reaching out to professionals, it was very difficult because, again, I'm not trying to go and sit with a doctor and have them sit there and say, well, okay, you're telling us these things, we think you're crazy. Or you're telling us these things, you need to go and check yourself into a mental hospital. A lot of times people don't like to open up with people that they know because, again, the same stigma. You tell somebody that, hey, you know what, I'm going through anxiety. A lot of people have no idea what anxiety is like. So if you're trying to explain that to somebody, they're not going to really understand it. So again, then it's not going to be of any use to you to kind of open up to people who don't know what you're going through. And then you're just letting people know your personal business, right? Nobody wants to have people know their own personal business and of what they're going through. It's a lot more difficult to share what you're going through internally, especially if you don't really understand what it is that you're going through either. For me, it was like that for a long time. I never really, acknowledged the depression that I was going through. I'm not going to say I was depressed and, I'm a sad person and I'm constantly sad every day. But again, you have moments in life where you feel depressed and that's perfectly normal, but again, going on medication is not something that I want to do, and that's kind of why I wanted to help remove the stigma around mental illness, because mental illness and mental health are, again, 2 separate things under one umbrella. You want to look at them in separate areas. So when we are talking about mental health and mental fitness, you want to have that mentality, and that's kind of why I wanted to help remove the stigmas, because I wanted to help people understand the difference between their mental health and their mental fitness, so that way they can start to get the help that they need to better themselves. A lot of people just have past trauma. They just have a lot of issues, a lot of things that went on in their life that may not necessarily seem very severe. A situation like not growing up without your father, you might have had a very high quality life where, financially you weren't deprived of anything. Emotionally, you weren't deprived of anything. And, for the most part, your life is pretty much normal, just like anybody else that grows up in a two-parent household. But there are underlining things that a lot of people have without growing up without both their parents, whether it's your mother or your father. Things do tend to root themselves there that you may not even notice. So it's important to speak to people about these things and have people open up with you, so that way you can kind of have a better understanding of what it is that you're going through. And that's why I'm advocating so much for people just to, reach out to somebody and talk to people, get something going for themselves so that they can get it off their chest. I don't want to make this video too long or anything like that. I just really want to stress the point of wanting to help remove the stigma of mental illness and mental health, understanding that mental health and mental fitness are two different things, and that if you want to improve your mental health and mental fitness, you don't necessarily have to go and see a doctor. It is recommended if you feel that any symptoms that you do have is very severe and it is affecting the quality of your life on a day-to-day basis. But if it is just something that you're going through and you just want help with, again, reaching out is the best thing to do. You can always reach out to us on our Telegram. Well, obvious reasons is that if we don't talk about it, it's pretty much just going to get ignored. If people don't open up about the conversation, it's going to be very hard to remove the stigmas, because again, conversation is what creates communication. Communication is what creates understanding. And without the conversation and communication, a lot of people are just not going to understand. It is a very difficult thing to talk about, especially when a lot of people are ignorant to the importance of mental health and mental fitness. A lot of people, the reason why there are stigmas around mental health is because they associate mental illness with mental fitness and mental health. Whenever anybody thinks about anything to do with mental health, the first thing that comes to mind is either someone who suffers from bipolar, schizophrenia, anorexia, any type of, I guess you'd say, a disease that people need to go seek treatment from a doctor. So that's the first part on where the stigma comes from. Anything that involves having to go to the doctor, people are very reluctant to go and do, especially something to do with mentally. A doctor can't really fix your mental problems as easy as they can do physical ailments. If your physical ailments are pretty much obvious, you broke a bone, you go to the doctors, they'll put a cast on and help that bone heal. They'll put a splint on and help that bone heal. But if you're dealing with any past traumas or anything like that, it's very hard to go to a doctor and open up about that and let them know, because you don't necessarily know exactly what it is that you're experiencing. So it's kind of hard to explain it to them. But this is why a lot of people do need to open up and have the conversation a lot more, because the more that they have the conversation, it makes it a lot easier for you to open up and discuss it with people. And then it makes other people feel the courage to open up and discuss it as well. And like I said before, without the conversation, we won't have the communication. Without the communication, there will be no understanding. And ultimately, without understanding, we'll never be able to get to a better place in our own lives and as a community and as a society with people. So that's one of the main reasons why it's very important to talk about mental fitness, so that way we can change the stigmas around mental fitness, incorporate new ideology around mental fitness, new mentality, new attitude towards mental fitness, and that way we can have a better, happier, and healthier life with the people that we love around us. Now, the definition of stigma that I found is the negative social attitude attached to a characteristic of an individual that may be regarded as a mental, physical, or social deficiency. A stigma implies social disapproval and can lead unfairly to discrimination against and exclusion of the individual. Now, the reason why it's important to know what a stigma is to understand how it affects people in society, especially when it comes to regards to mental health. Now, one of the biggest things, especially in our past in dealing with mental health related issues, is that a lot of people just really didn't understand a lot of the mental illnesses that people are going through. So whether it be bipolar, schizophrenia, like I mentioned before, these mental illnesses cause a lot of people to be ostracized and unfairly treated. So because they were treated so poorly, a lot of people realize that if people find out that I'm going through these issues as well, that they will then treat me unfairly as well. So especially with a lot of mental health cases, mental illnesses, they do go untreated a lot because people just don't want to go and be diagnosed with that ailment. So when they are diagnosed with that particular ailment, it's something that does follow them pretty much throughout their entire life. It is being labeled once you are, diagnosed with depression. It is something that you're going to have to follow with you throughout your entire life. And this is why we try to focus on removing the stigmas around mental health so that we can first put them in separate categories, have mental illness addressed with mental illness problems, and have mental health issues addressed with mental health problems. So a mental health problem would be more something like stress, something like anxiety, being depressed. Depression, on the other hand, would be something that you'd be diagnosed with and then would need to seek medication for as well. So they're different, even though they are somewhat similar. But once we can actually put them in a different category and have them separated, a lot more people will have a better understanding of these situations, and therefore we can slowly start to remove the stigma and understand that we need to treat people who are battling with mental health issues the same way that we treat people who are battling with things like cancer. A lot of people do look at those people as strong individuals, and they are. To go through cancer is a very difficult thing, but it's no less difficult than going through depression or anxiety or anything like that as well. And we do have to remove the stigma and look at them as people who are fighting a battle that we don't necessarily know much about, and they are courageous for going on with their days and trying to make the best of it as well. So we do need to understand what stigmas are, how they affect people negatively, and how we can do our best to change them by opening up dialogue and talking about mental health as well and mental fitness. To remove stigmas from society, it's going to take a lot of work from a lot of people. This is the reason why we must have the conversation of mental fitness and mental health, and keep encouraging people to take care of themselves mentally and physically as well. As far as removing the stigma goes, the first thing that I recommend is starting with yourself. I know myself personally, in order for me to actually start focusing on opening up more about my, mental fitness journey, I had to remove the stigmas that I personally had with mental health as well. Again, reaching out to doctors and things like that. The last thing anybody wants to be called is crazy. The last thing anybody wants to have to deal with is being labeled. So when it does come to removing stigmas, that's the first thing I would recommend, is changing how we think about mental health, mental fitness. Once you start with yourself and you kind of educate yourself more about mental health, mental fitness, again, continuing the conversation with as much people as you can, sharing your struggles with as much people as you can. The more you open up, the easier it'll be. The more you open up, which will help other people to want to open up and share their struggles as well. And then once everyone starts to do that, it does become something that won't be as taboo. People will then have a better understanding of what mental health is and what mental fitness is, and how they can use that to better their day-to-day lives. So that's how we would go about removing the stigma, is just, again, education, separating mental health and mental illness into two different categories, and just continuing the conversation. Like I keep saying, with conversation comes communication. With communication comes understanding. And once we have a better understanding of our own mental health, we'll have a better understanding of other people that are going through mental health as well. So don't be afraid to reach out, educate yourself on the difference of mental health and mental illness. And that's it. As far as fighting stigma, it's something that's going to take a long time for us to really get over, because it was a very long time in which people were ostracized because of the mental health and mental illnesses that they were going through. So it is going to take us a long time to completely remove the stigmas in society, but we can all start with ourselves individually. The more people that embrace mental fitness and embrace mental health on a positive level, is the better chances for other people and the future generations to have a better understanding of mental health and mental fitness and how they can apply it and use it to improve their day-to-day lives. Thank you so much for listening to me talk for today. I really do appreciate it. Peace and love. You guys take care and be safe.